you are a little over 3 years sober. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Before we get into your story, I just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor today. The episode is sponsored by SBR Cartel. Find all the apparel on sbrcartel.com. 10% of all sales, that revenue goes towards hospitals and institutions to help the sick and suffering alcoholic and addict. To get 15% off, use code RISEABOVE. So, Mike, take us, let's start from the very beginning. Let's go back to early childhood. What was growing up like in Philly? Did you have siblings? Were your parents together?
Yeah, no worries. We bounced around a lot. My family was from out west, so we started in South Dakota. As my parents are from, very small little town. My father was really big into education and further in his life, and so we traveled a lot. I ended up being born in California. We spent time in California, and then we moved to Salt Lake City, Utah, and we were there, until I was probably 9 or whatever. But my dad was studying for his doctorate degree in biology, and finally he got a job. I think it was like $19,000 in whatever year it was at Westchester University, which is right outside of Philadelphia. And that's really where we grew up. I grew up in I have 3 sisters, 2 older, 1 younger. A great family. My dad was, kind of a disciplinarian. My mom was, just a great mom, loved our kids, really took care of us. I mean, we're just middle class kind of, family. And I'm very, very close with my sisters, very close with my family today, especially after all the stuff that's happened over the last 15 years or so. I lost my dad in 2016, but I had a good, strong relationship with him. I don't think he understood the world of addiction. Like you kind of talked a little bit about your dad too. Like he's like, just stop,
So get your shit together.
Get your shit together.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you grew up in Westchester, essentially.
Yeah.
You're jumping around a little bit. What was it like for you? I'm assuming you were changing schools every time you guys were moving. What was that like, going from school to school and constantly making new friends?
It wasn't really that difficult for me. I was younger, so I remember coming into like Westchester and starting school, and then I think majority of my time has been spent right in the Westchester area. So I had really good friends. We all have that kind of first day, whatever. But very really tight friends still today.
Yeah.
That I grew up with, which is cool. Very consistent.
Yeah.
So
were you playing sports?
I was. Yeah. I played sports when I was, I played sports in high school. I really, really enjoyed that. I don't think I was good enough to go to college. And the thing about it is I think sometimes we all like, I wish I could have, I should have done this, but I really at 14 years old really started to go into a different direction. And that was drinking and smoking and, party guy. And then I just took that role over and I ran with it for a very long time. But yeah, sports was a part of it, but I certainly wish that I would have pursued that more. My dad was a big sports guy. So
Was your first drink with a separate group of people, like a new crowd that you were introduced to? You have like the bad crowd, you have the athletes, and then in some cases you have the athletes who are part of that bad crowd as well. How did you find out about drinking, and what was that like in the beginning?
I had some things that happened to me when I was in school, when I was 13 years old. Nothing crazy. It was just, that adolescent times when you're very awkward times at 13, 14 years old, right? And I kind of talk about this is that I had a teacher in my class and he didn't like me very much. And he used to get me in front of the class and have wanted me to speak about Macbeth and, like the Lord of the Flies and all this stuff. And I was so scared. I would just be panicked that he would call on me. And he seemed to pick on me a lot. And I'm 14 years old. And it's funny because that's when I I start picking up a drink at 14 years old, 15 years old. But to get back to your question, Kevin, it was really, I went to a wedding, my sister's wedding, and I took a bottle, which I write about. I stole a bottle, me and my buddies, and we went out and we had sitting outside with a bunch of girls, and you do what you do. And we were drinking, and I got sick and I got in trouble. But there was something about that I really, really liked. And then I just kind of pursued that. And I think that I was probably more on the rebellish side than a lot of my athletic friends at that time. And I gravitated to between kind of the athletes and the individuals that were a little bit more far left, right? So I there was a balance beam of there between friends, and so I had tons of friends, right? So I just had a lot of friends, and then that time we start smoking weed and all that other stuff that progresses through our addiction.
Yeah. So through high school, you were just primarily drinking and smoking weed?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I think in maybe my senior year, I was introduced to cocaine, and but just dabbled in it. I think that really kind of fueled later in my life when I went to college. That's when I think I started. Like I said, that was late 80s. Cocaine was really about, introduced at that time. It was the era of excess, right? And so.
Were you a good student?
No. No. As my father said, no, I just never applied myself. I just never really worked at it, and it's funny how I really have to work on my life these days too. But it didn't come easy for me.
Yeah.
My father was extremely intelligent. And I think that I've gotten more like my father, although I've gotten more patience and really enjoy the educational side of my life these days. But back then, no.
It's interesting. Addicts, alcoholics, we're talented people. We're intelligent people. And I mean, it's a lot that we have to do. We have to manipulate. We have to live two different lives. We have to do all of the juggling act, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the time, people come in here, other guests, and this applies to myself as well. I never applied myself. I was the king of half measures. Like when I applied myself in 7th and 8th grade. I remember I got like 97s, 98s. I did really well.
Yeah.
And then freshman year in high school came. I was like, I'm just going to party. I'm going to party and just get by, make sure I'm doing well in sports, whatever. So it's funny you say that, but the potential was there.
Yeah.
You just weren't applying yourself.
No.
Were you cheating at all or?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was,
It's that fraud, fraud in you,
Yeah. Just it's scammy.
Yep.
Always trying to get around it, right? Making it easy, the easier way. And that was, that's what I tried to do the majority of my life, right? I didn't want to work that hard at some of this stuff.
Yeah.
I wanted to find the shortcuts of things. And so certainly, yeah.
So you graduate. What college do you go to?
I went to Westchester University.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that where your father worked?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, I actually had my father in a class. I took his class in biology, which is really. I'm so happy that I got to see that, because you see your dad. He's like, you're at home. He's like your dad, But I actually got to see him up and present and teach students, and that was a really cool thing to see. I got to see a totally different side of my father, and I appreciated that. Yeah. I had a little bit more respect for my father, seeing him outside of my home.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
How was your college experience? Was it wild? Was it?
It was extremely wild. Yeah. My college was really wild. It was just a lot of drinking. Now, I had, I was able to kind of just push through school, but I had some really, tough times there. Thank goodness that my dad was there, because he was always watching me. So I was like, I couldn't get away with some of the stuff. But yeah, it wasn't easy. There was a lot of drinking and a lot of drugs, a lot of partying in my school, and I lived right down the street from a bar called Jake's Bar, and opened at 8 o'clock in the morning. And But I couldn't see it. I just thought this was the college life.
Of course.
You
Yeah.
just think that's it.
You're in America going to college.
Yeah, like that's everyone
everyone
does,
this.
right?
Yeah. You're right on the cusp of failing out, but you're not you're passing.
Right.
Any consequences through college as a result of your drinking and drugging?
No, not really. I mean, just the stupid bullshit things, but nothing where I was in trouble with the law.
Mhm.
It was more relationship things that I would fall apart with girls because you drank too much or you did this or you ran around on this. You know how that shit
Yeah.
goes. So it was more relationships, but I never really got into any deep trouble when I was using.
Yeah.
And that's really, like I said earlier, I think um, a lot of the individuals that I was hanging around, we were smoking a lot of dope. We'd get coke. We were all like in it together. You know what I mean? And we'd all scrounge up our money and get a bag, and it's kind of a shitty way to do it, but that's what we did.
Have fun for the night.
Uh,
So you graduate college. What do you do after that?
I graduate college and I get a job in security. And my pursuit was I wanted to be a cop. Really, that's what I really want to do. My family, my sister married a police officer, and my other sister was married to a police officer. So it was always something that was at my table, kind of growing up. And I was ready to pursue that. And I just got a job in the security world. And I'm talking about like international kind of security type of stuff. Right. And I was working for Tyco, ADT Tyco. That's where I just started to move towards. And I learned so much. And for the last 25 years, that's really what I've been doing. It's been in the security world. And I worked for a company called International SOS, and they did risk mitigation for international travelers. From there, I really love that. Like we would put itineraries together for individuals that were traveling into foreign countries. So there was a lot of really interesting things that we were doing. So we were tracking them medically, what's going on in that area. We had CEOs, and then from there, I started to really fall in love with the executive protection business and the executive tech. So I decided to go back to school, and that took me about a year. I went through a company called ESI, Executive Security International, and I graduated from there. I had to go to boot camp, and this was in 2016 or so. And I was definitely the oldest guy there. And but I loved it. Like and then I started doing full-time executive protection, which is bodyguard services. So I started to cut my teeth down in DC, and I worked for a couple firms down there, and we did a lot of details. And from there I got a job, full-time job, and up in Philadelphia, and I was managing an individual who obviously my principal that I can't talk about, but him and his estate, and he was probably worth $900 million, and
Yeah.
huge estate and big family, and we had a 12-man security team, and we carried, and it was a total crazy. It was like living in a movie. Like when we were flying from Philadelphia, from like this area into Philadelphia, this guy wasn't like taking a car. He was getting in a helicopter,
Yeah.
Sikorsky aircraft. And we did a lot of trips to New York, Air Pegasus, where we used to fly into. So I lived really kind of it was like living in a movie for a while. And I did that for almost about 4 years.
So that was 2016 when you became an executive bodyguard.
Yeah.
And that kind of took off. So there was a huge gap, I think, from when you started the international security right out of college until 2016.
Yeah.
Take us through your substance use during that time. Are you drinking? Are you drinking socially, alcoholically? Are you using drugs?
I wasn't using a lot of drugs at the time, but I was drinking a lot.
Okay.
Right. So that's that was kind of where my story is I always continue to drink. Now, I had some issues. So, I would work for a company for 6 or 7 years. Like I said, I worked for a couple of large companies, and there were some incidents that I had, that I had been traveling. Like I wrote about it in my book, called Lost in London, because I had gone to London and got lost, like, just drinking. So there was incidents that were leading me up to around 2011 when I decided to go to rehab for the first time.
Okay.
And as we talked a little bit about is, yeah, that's how the progression went for me. It wasn't a lot of substances, from there. It was more of the drinking, and I thought I was a control drinker, right? I was a binge drinker. I'd go off for a weekend and then I'd just buckle down and start working again,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then so in 2011, that's when I decided. And then I got clean. And then in 2016, that's when I made a decision to go into the executive protection HIPAA world.
Got it.
And that's how it went. Right? So
Walk us through what it was like right before you went to rehab in 2011. Like, how bad was it to the point where you felt you needed to go to rehab, or was it you were interventioned and people forced you into rehab?
no, people forced me to go to rehab for sure.
They always do.
Yeah, I mean, in 2011, I remember it because my wife, who's now my ex-wife, went away for the weekend, and that was always like a red flag, right? She had taken my daughter, and they went to the shore for the weekend, and I was like, all right, I can party, right? And it went on for 3 days, and it was just, it got to the point where a couple of my friends were like, man, you were way out of control. And then she came back, and then there was a bit of an intervention. And then I really fought it tooth and nail to go to Karen for the first time.
Ooh, Karen.
Yeah.
I went to Karen.
I know.
Yep, Karen alum, baby.
Yeah.
It's a great place. By the way.
Very, very, awesome place.
Mhm.
I do a lot of work with these guys now.
Yeah.
So that was my first introduction to going to rehab. It
Okay.
wouldn't be my last.
What were you drinking?
Vodka.
You were drinking straight vodka.
Yeah, drinking vodka. And that time, and in 2010, 2011, I was doing opiates. I was doing oxys. I was doing
Oh, dude, you're
Percocet.
leaving out the good stuff.
I know. I'm
So
telling you.
how did you get hooked on opiates?
I'll tell you, this is how I got hooked on it. Okay. So I was trying to stop drinking. And,
Okay.
and that's what it was. I was trying to stop drinking. And I remember going to the gym, and this guy was like, oh, there's these, you can take Percocets, can't you? And I thought, sure, I'll take Percocets.
Mm-hmm.
And the next thing I know, I'm going down the road because Percocets are good. Oxys are like magic, right? And the first time I took an oxy, it was like, holy shit, this is unbelievable. I mean, it was just like, all right, I found my peace. I found my magic. And so, like anybody else, it takes over your life.
What kind of you were doing oxys? What milligrams were you doing? Do you remember?
I think it was 30 milligrams.
Oh, you're doing the Roxy Blue 30s. Yeah.
And I'd crush them. And
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you put the drink down. This was after rehab. You're at the gym trying to get sober, staying sober,
yeah,
not drinking. And by
Yeah,
sober, I mean, in this case, not drinking.
yeah.
And then someone offered you a Percocet. You took it. And that's when you discovered Percocet at that point.
Percocets and
opioids.
Yeah, that's kind of how my direction went. And
Okay.
then, so I would go to an AA meeting. I wasn't drinking, but I would be stoned, out of my mind on oxys and perks. and
Got 6 months.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're introduced to the program too at this point.
Yeah.
You start learning about the underworld of recovery and
Yeah.
do you get linked up with people right away, or did you kind of just skate by, leave, not really network with anyone?
All the above. Like I really didn't. When I got out of rehab the first time, like I did my 30 days, right? And I was like, oh, okay. And I went in there just pissed off, and and I walked out there clean. I came out sober, right?
Mhm.
And I was like, okay. It's still in the back of my mind. I was like, you know what I mean? I was like,
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah.
And I hated AA. I didn't like AA. I just didn't think I belonged there. I thought I was a little bit more I thought I was more intelligent. I was
Mhm.
like, I'll kind of pick what I want
Same.
to pick. I just, you know what I mean?
Same.
It's like, the measurement of our intelligence is our ability to change. Albert Einstein. And I I just thought I was smarter than everybody else.
Yeah.
And, so I got sober, which is different than sobriety and recovery. As you know, getting sober is just getting the chemicals out of our bodies. In 4 or 5 days, they're out of our bodies. I understand that. But you're still the same fucking version of yourself. And I didn't get that. That took me a long time to start figuring out the difference between doing the work of sobriety and living in recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And that took me, many years from ago. Now, that's when I started to really do the work.
Yeah.
But to answer you, the question is that, yeah, I just kind of like, all right, I got it. I'll figure it out. I just told everybody I was doing the work. I was great at that, and they're like, oh, I was really doing well.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the side of it, I was doing oxys and doing all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And eventually that led me to another drink too. So
were you getting them from a doctor?
No, I didn't get them from a doctor. I got them from a guy.
You got a guy. You had a guy.
I got a guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I think if I remember, I got some from a doctor, Percocets, all that other bullshit that we do. Oh, I heard this, I heard that, right? But back then it wasn't as regulated, right? So that, as you know, it wasn't like, they clamped down on all that stuff today.
You can't do it anymore.
You can't do it anymore, right? So I just had a guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember near the end of it, and this guy wasn't very reliable, right? And when you're jonesing and you need a hit, and you're just like, I remember like pacing his like apartment complex, like, when's he coming back? When's he coming back? It was fucking awful.
Yeah,
I hate that. But I was able to kick it. I ended up like, I got caught by my ex-wife, and I was, she realized that she found some of my pills, and then, I decided to go back to AA and get clean, and told them what the hell was going on, and I stopped it. And I'll never forget that week of torture and hell. I think it was like 10 days before I, started to feel somewhat normal again.
Can you take us through what the opioid withdrawal was like?
It's the worst feeling that I've ever experienced, right? Because I had to take opiates just to feel normal, like just to get through the day and to think, and you get to that level. But it's like the worst flu in the world. It's this, you're just everything's coming out of you. It just, and if it wasn't, and I write a little bit about this, if it wasn't for my ex-wife at the time, like if I could get out of the house, I would have got out in the house and gotten more.
Mm-hmm.
But I was being watched. And then after I got over that, Kevin, I was like, okay, all right, like, don't touch this shit any longer, because I just didn't want to go back to the way I felt when I had to get off of them.
Yeah.
So.
What year was that when you got off of the opiates?
I would say, let me see, 2015.
Okay.
Maybe about that time frame. Yeah, that's when I was. Yeah.
Okay, so 2015 to going into 2016, you become an executive.
Yeah.
Bodyguard.
Yeah.
And you have your team. You're working with a team. Are you sober during the beginning of that?
Yes, I am.
Completely sober.
Completely sober. That's what I talked about earlier. So I was good at getting sober for 2 or 3 years, right? And faking it. And then after 2 or 3 years, I'd fuck something up again. You know what I mean? I would snap.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I had, long periods of being sober. I wouldn't say in recovery, but sober for sure.
Yeah.
So
So when you're an executive bodyguard, I'm sure you have a lot of incidents that happen. What was the craziest thing that had happened when you were an executive bodyguard?
It wasn't. It was just. I wouldn't say the crazy thing about it, but it's not that big goony guy that you see standing next to your thing. There's just a lot of uh, driving and customer service and knowing what your clients want and delivering that to them. And as we call like zero presence. I mean, a lot of the clients that we wanted us to kind of blend in. So we kind of blended into these so I could be standing right next to you and not knowing, no one know what this guy's doing here, right? I'd be part of that team. So it just depended on which clients that you had. But, I think there was some incidents down in Philadelphia where I've had some, guys, I've had one of the principals in the back seat and, two guys came around one time and I had pulled out in front of them and they weren't too happy about it. And they came up and they were ready to take us out. They were ready. That's probably one of the scariest times that I had there. But the thing about it is making sure you're running your itinerary and you're not putting these people in a situation. And
Mhm.
so, I mean, it's it. I majority of the time things if you were fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're always preparing for the what could happen,
Right.
right?
You're
So
planning for potential contingencies down the
yeah,
road
exactly right. Yeah,
and
yeah,
avoiding them,
yeah,
moving in a way where you're avoiding any kind of threat
yeah.
or,
Yeah. Yeah.
anything
Yes.
happening.
There's a lot of investigations on that stuff, right? A lot of like tracking, your travel, what are they doing, where are they going at, where they want to get, all those things have to be, just managed a certain way, right? And then you have to manage a personality, which is sometimes the most difficult thing.
Yeah.
I've worked with some really pretentious people
Mhm.
and trying to educate them or to convince them to do something maybe a little bit different can be super, super challenging.
Yeah.
Right. And some people that have a lot of money have to create drama in their life just to create drama because everything's there for them.
Mhm.
So it's like a little thing between you and I. We
Yeah.
wouldn't see it, but for them, it's a huge deal.
Yeah.
So
They wanna feel something.
it's a different platform,
Yeah.
different world.
Yeah.
You know
It's
what I
an
mean?
interesting job.
Oh, it was very interesting. Yeah, I really liked it.
Yeah.
I learned a lot. I had like really great teachers, really a lot of people that helped me through that process. But
So in your book, you talk about in one of the chapters, you talk about the sock. Can you take us through that whole story?
sure, yeah, I can take you through the sock story. So, um, this is probably a 2014, 2015 when I'm kind of doing oxys and all kinds of
Mhm.
stuff. Right, I'm still kind of partying. And addiction for me, my substance use disorder was, it was about chasing pleasure. Like, so if I put something down, I just substitute it with something else, right? We all have a tendency to do that. And I struggle with my ex-wife now, but at the time, and I just kept seeing there's something else there out there that's shinier. And I end up having an affair. And this is how it went. I tell her that I'm going to a recovery. I'm going to an AA meeting. And I went over to this girl's house and we were in bed, doing our thing, right? And it's about 7:30 at night in October evening. And I get up like, oh, I got to get back home and grabbed all my clothes and stuff. Well, I put on her sock. Okay. So I come home that night and, throw all my stuff into the laundry. And the next day I'm in my office. I was working from home and my ex wife now, she's like, whose sock is this? It's a pink sock. And I had no explanation. It was, how you get to that point where you're like, I don't know what the fuck to do.
Mhm.
And from that point on, she just started doing her investigations like a woman will, and she just phoned and this and and, it was over, and within a week or a half or whatever, we decided to kind of call quits. It went really, really fast.
Yeah.
But the whole point was, I think, and that's a really hard thing and story to share, right? But I share that intimately in the book of all that is. But I at the time I didn't see my consequences. I couldn't see that. I couldn't see that I destroyed someone else's life, right? My wife at the time had all these dreams and expectations and all this stuff. I couldn't see how it was going to affect my daughter, who was 5 years old, or 5, 6 years old at that time. Like I couldn't see all that. And that was devastating. That was just really, really devastating.
Mm.
And I share that because it's like what we talk about is, an affair is just selfish, self-centered, self-concentrated, right? And no one thinks they're going to get caught on it. But you have to think about what those consequences are going to be. And I didn't, you know.
Yeah. After that had happened, were you like, fuck, I ruined a great relationship with a great woman? Or do you think it was you subtly not happy in the relationship and almost self-sabotaging?
I think it's the second part of that. I wasn't really happy in that relationship. And I think that started very early on in my relationship with her. Um, I don't think I should have gotten married. I think that I was still in my active addiction. I kind of looked at her as, a platform that was going to help me stay sober or get sober,
Mm-hmm.
right? That she was going to be, and it's not how it fucking works.
Mm-hmm.
And I think everybody, all of us are guilty. Like, okay, we're gonna put this. If we get this, then I'll get sober, right? Like I'll get sober for somebody else, or
Have a
I'll
kid.
slow down. I'll have a kid, right? So I don't think that I was fair and truthful from the start, and that slowly eroded the relationship, right? Like I felt that I was like, I presented myself falsely,
Mm-hmm.
like I was this great person, or I got my shit together. But behind the scenes, I mean, I was a fucking wreck. And it didn't take long. It took like 4 or 5 years before that I realized that, you know, I wasn't happy in the relationship. And I don't think she was happy either.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so let's jump back up to the security job, 2020. You did COVID put an end to that?
Uh, actually, no, it didn't for us because they still wanted us to have them on the payroll. So we were working, and I'm not going to tell you where we were working at, but we was outside of Philadelphia. And the guy was like, "Hey, listen, we still want you to be here." So we would have to take COVID tests before we got onto this estate. And then, there was not really any traveling done. So it was actually a pretty cool thing for him because he kind of kept us on the payroll, and we kind of sat there and didn't do a lot
Mm-hmm.
for quite some time. So that's how things went with him. He was a really decent guy to work for.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was lucky in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When did you and why did you make the exit out of security?
Well, I was a little bit forced to make and that's really where the story picks up, right? So, um, after the COVID thing and COVID, and I'm not blaming COVID because but I did really isolate, right? And I wasn't going to meetings because they didn't really have that many meetings. Everything was online, if you remember. Like I was like, you know what I mean? And it's this the same pattern that I had been going through for the last 10, 15 years like this, right? And I was offered another job, and it was doing a job for an investigation company, and I ended up taking that job, and I was working for them, and things were going fine. Everything was cool, right? And then it was a January night, you know, a while ago now, and I just picked up a couple airplane bottles, right? You know how we start, right? And then it just started to snowball. And I got to that point where I just couldn't stop. And I got my first DUI in April of that year. And I was devastated. Like, I didn't want my employer to find out, and security and clearance and all that stuff. I was panicked. I mean, just panicked. I end up getting a good lawyer. I got it like knocked down, like ARD program. I lost my license for a little bit of time. I could manage it, right? Like, you just managing all that shit. And I don't know what really, within the next 6 months, I got another one.
2 in 6 months.
September of that year, I got another one.
Okay.
And that's when everything started to blow up. I mean, life just, blew up.
Was it the same judge that you had to go in front of?
No, it was a different judge, but my BAC was really high. And
what was it?
And 2.7, something like that.
Point
0.2.
0.2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, that's high.
It's high.
Yep.
I'm not proud of it.
No.
I'm not proud of it, but it did turn me into a different direction in my life for sure. So
okay. So you get the second DUI, the shaming guilt is on. It's piling up. I've been there, man.
Yeah.
Take us through the dark side.
Yeah, the dark side. So I wake up in jail the next day, and I've had a lot of dark days for sure, but I wake up in jail. It's 11 o'clock. I'm like, what the fuck? I mean, I literally know that everything is going to fall apart. Like, I've been gone for a couple of days. That's what happened to me when I was drinking. I would just disappear. I would just go into my own world and just start drinking. And there was nobody that could reach me when I got to that point. So I had been missing for a couple of days, So, my phone's blowing up. My boss is wondering what the hell's going on. Like, all these things are happening and I'm sitting in jail. So I get an Uber out of jail, and all I want to do is drink. All I want to do is end my life. It was the darkest day, because I'm like, I don't have anything else. Like, there was nothing, right? No job. I was going to lose everything. So I go to a bar. I walk in the bar. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I just start drinking. I get a text from my boss and saying, "You're terminated." That night, while I'm sitting at the bar that evening, a friend comes in. We get plastered. I go to his house. We drink and party till 1:30 in the morning. And I get up at like 9:30, feeling like shit. Don't know where my car is. Don't know where anything is. Right. I get an Uber to a supermarket, and I walk in the supermarket. I grab a bottle of wine. I go into the bathroom, uncork it, drink the bottle of wine within 7-10 minutes, whatever. Walk out of the supermarket. It was a very nice day. It was sunny. I'm sitting outside the supermarket, like, just shit-faced now, right? Just pounded a bottle of wine, thinking that I'm good, right? 10 minutes later, 2 cops come there. Within 15 minutes of that whole conversation, I was arrested again. And I'm right back into a cell. And from there, I have this wonderful sister, which I dedicated my book to, my sister Kate, and she got me out. And then that was the process of trying to get me into rehab. But to be honest with you, it got much darker. It got really, really dark there until I finally, had enough. Yeah. It took me probably another month before I really surrendered.
Yeah.
And I got back into my last rehab.
Okay.
That was it, yeah.
So your sister coordinated rehab, call it a month or two after that third arrest. And by the way, you were arrested because you didn't pay for the wine, right?
No, actually, I don't know why I was arrested. So I don't know because
To this day, you don't know?
No, I don't think they saw me. Like I walked in and I walked out very quickly. I don't think that was it. But it was weird because, this cop pulled up, must have just seen me sitting there like
Hammered?
well, yeah, must be seeing me
public.
hammered. And yeah, it's you know how they ask you the questions. I totally understand it. Hey, what are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. I told him to leave me alone.
Yep.
Fuck off,
Yep.
And then, you can smell it on you, looking at you, your eyes are all whacked out.
Yeah, of course.
So it doesn't take long.
Okay. And then you end up going away to treatment, call it a month or two later after that.
Yeah, I end up going to a treatments. I ended up walking into a treatment center, which my sister had to beg me to go. And I stayed there for like 4 or 5 days and I didn't want to live. I didn't want to eat. So they're like, we don't know what the hell to do with this guy. So they sent me to this mental institution for almost 9 days, 10 days.
Oh, nice.
And talk about like they lock you down.
Yeah.
In Pennsylvania, I think they 302 you or whatever. They put you in and then you got to get somebody to try to get you back out.
Yeah.
And I wasn't, finally my sister kind of got me out of there into this other rehab. And I said, all right, I'll go. And it was, I went in there and I just floundered for 20 days. And that was, then the guy who was working with me says, you could go get a job if you want, So I went into Lowe's and got a job at Lowe's. And, I was just sitting there like, what happened in my life? Couple months ago, I'm flying in helicopters and it was gone. Like everything was gone. And the pressure of that and the failure in my head and my heart, I couldn't breathe. And then one day I just decided to walk right back into a liquor store. I walked right out of the thing and went to the liquor store, got a bottle and walked back to the rehab. And they said, you're drunk, you got to get out and I walked out. And I spent, I don't know if you know where like Valley Forge area, I spent like 5 or 6, probably maybe a little bit longer, like just walking the streets and just drinking. I had nowhere to go. And that's really where it took me. And until I went, and there was a place called the Valley Forge Casino. And I would go in there and sneak in there at night and try to sleep downstairs, and eventually I got caught and they kicked me out. And this is late October, November timeframe. It's fucking freezing out.
That's 21 or 22?
22.
22.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's freezing cold. I mean, so I'm like, and so I got to the point where I went to an Ace Hardware store. I was totally shit-faced and I walked in there and grabbed the rope and went out to the woods and put the rope up and said this was going to be it. And obviously I didn't do it, but I was very, very close to taking my life, which I read about. And, I kind of, I got, after I couldn't do what I was doing, I don't need to get so graphic about it. I just decided that it wasn't like I was on my knees crying and begging for some type of help, right? But I was so cold, the only thing that I could do was think it was going to my mom's house. So I Ubered to my mom's house. Now I haven't showered for like, I don't know how many days, and I haven't eaten. I probably lost 25 pounds, long, beard, I knocked on the door and my mom's like, what the fuck, And then my sisters came over. I couldn't stay at my mom's house. I mean, I was just a mess. And I took a shower. And they said, we got one more rehab for you to go to. And that's when I went to Seabrook, which is in southern New Jersey. Yeah. And that's where things started to change for me.
I know Seabrook.
You know Seabrook?
I went to Seabrook.
Okay.
Yeah, I went
to Karen.
I went
to Seabrook.
Seabrook was like, everyone was like, listen, you've been to all these rehabs.
Yeah.
We're done paying for you. Like
you're
done.
Yeah.
Insurance will cover this one.
Yeah.
If you want to go.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where I got to.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's when
it's a great place.
Yeah, it was. It's no longer in place. They got,
Uh,
unfortunately, they closed it down.
do you know
Yeah,
why?
financing.
Mm.
They had problems with the financing. There was a lot of, I think, shady shit going on there. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
But that was the beginning. That was when I surrendered.
yeah.
That's when we'll talk a little bit about that. That was
Yeah.
pretty intensive.
Talk us walk us through your first 90 days and what the surrender process looks like. And I'm asking you that because there are listeners who are still active in their addiction
Yeah.
and don't know what it's like to really surrender and don't really know what it's like your first 90 days, what to do, building that structure to help yourself stay sober.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. So I'll tell you a little bit about surrendering first. Okay, so when I was there, I heard a lot about surrendering, acceptance and all these things, that these key words, and you're like, what the hell does this mean, right? For me, and I think most people, is that when I was down in Seabrook, my last rehab, I was there for 2 or 3 days, and it was a Sunday. And in Sundays, you can go to church. And this black woman's like, you want to go to church with me? And I was like, fuck yeah, I'll go to church with you. I want to get out of this place, right? So she takes me to the Baptist Union Church, right? And totally different than a Catholic church, right?
Yeah.
And I certainly didn't blend that well, right? It was a black, church.
Yeah.
And I walked in there and I was so beat to shit, like, and they were so generous and so nice and so loving. I think people can see when somebody's at the end of their shit. Like I just had this aura about me, like, whatever. Like
Yeah.
I was done, right? And I got in there and I got in the middle of the pew here, and I was like, everyone was dancing around and the music, and I was like, I really thought Eddie Murphy was going to come in from like Coming to America too. Like I was like, holy shit! Like I've never seen this before, right?
Mm-hmm.
But something got me on my knees, and I was just so beat, and that's when I totally surrendered. I was like, and for me, it was simple. It was like, I can't do this by myself anymore. Like, like I said earlier, I'm not that smart, right? Like I can't do this. And I remember praying, give me one more chance. Give me one more chance. And, I was tearing, I was crying. I was like, I was just a mess. And I stood up. There was no like, light, whatever, but I felt a little bit lighter. There was something in that surrendering. But to get back to you, it's like, I, I had to let it all go. I had to let something else help me without trying to help myself all the time. That's what surrender is for me.
Yeah.
Now, acceptance for me is, the same thing that I was saying earlier, right? When I remember going to an AA meeting, people were like, acceptance is the key. And I was like, what is this, some yoga thing? Or, where I'm some retreat, it's acceptance is the key. I never understood it. But acceptance is so unique to you. You just have to find it. Like, I look at my acceptance I think of it as just a bridge, which I write about. Like, I think of it as a bridge of my life. And I think of the Ben Franklin Bridge up in Philadelphia that I have to cross every day, but I don't cross it by myself anymore. I got like people that help me. And that's my acceptance. My acceptance is that I have limitations. Someone said to me in a meeting the other day, acceptance is about accepting that the insecurities of life, right? Like all the shit we have to go through, all the pain, the trauma, all that stuff. It's accepting that life's not going to be that way and that I can't hide from it anymore because I have done that since I've been 15 years old. I never grew the fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't, And when I made those steps in recovery, in sobriety, that's when I okay, accepted these things, accept all the issues that's going to happen. And you move forward and you don't pick up a drink for it. Don't pick up.
Yeah.
Only going to make it worse.
What were some of the tools that you used? Meetings, sponsorship. Did you have a sober community?
I did, it's funny because that's one of the things that and I think you've mentioned it a couple of times, like, you're going into a, recovery meeting, the first couple, it's uncomfortable. You're used to doing shit yourself. It's, you know what I mean? You're like, and every meeting has its quirks, no matter what. You're not going to like everybody in the meeting. But for me to have that opportunity where I got on my knees and said, "Hey, God, give me one more opportunity," this was the platform that I had to go to. Like, so I go to meetings. I go to like 3 meetings a week, but I also have a sponsor, right? I talk to my sponsor every day. But I'm in recovery, totally in it, right? I do speaking engagements. I wrote a book about it. I do podcasts. I got to that point where I was like, I can't be on that edge any longer. I got to be full tilt into it. And sometimes it's kind of, like my girlfriend, she's like, what the hell, like, what are you doing for recovery today? I'm like, it beats the alternative. It beats the other shit that I was doing in my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
You don't want me picking up, babe.
you don't want me there. You don't want me
Your
picking
wallet
up.
will be gone.
Yeah, but I also went back to school. So I got my certified recovery specialist license,
Wow.
certified recovery family specialist. I got involved in my local community. And you got to imagine, I was on probation for the longest time for my DUI. And, I just got accepted onto the board membership of the Chester County Drug and Alcohol Commission. I mean, like, your wildest dreams, but it's also you're just doing the next right thing. You're doing what you're fucking supposed to be doing, right? You're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and that's how I go.
Isn't it crazy what our life becomes once we actually start doing what we're supposed to be doing?
Yeah,
i.e., getting sober,
yeah,
getting clean, stopping all the bullshit.
yeah.
It's truly amazing. I mean, it's funny. I was going to ask you, what are you doing for work now? Well,
Yeah,
clearly
yeah.
you're on the board, and that's
Well, no, I'm actually the crazy thing about it is I got a job back in security. I'm doing some work for a company, and I don't, I do all these other things on the side, So
got it.
yeah.
Okay, so you're doing the schooling on the side, and then you're going
the
to be.
schooling's all done, right? So the schooling I got and all that, and I mean, and I help guys. I talk to mostly guys that are similar in my age that are going through some of the shit that they've got to go through, right? So I focus more with guys. That's what I try to help coach guys with, and they call me up and I'll talk to them and develop some plans for them. If they're going through a divorce, they're going through legal issues, they're going through all this shit that we have got to go through, right? Because when you get out of rehab, the fun's just starting. Like that's when all the shit starts, right?
Yeah.
You're going back to the relationships, the family, all that other stuff, right? It doesn't miraculously like everything gets better. You got to work at it. I mean, I try to put this, it's like mind, body, and soul stuff, right? Like, guys that are successful in recovery, start to look at their mind. Why do they want to keep running? Right? Why do they want to? It's those trauma things that we talked a little bit about. There's little issues that okay, start to identify these. I want some areas in your life that moved you in a different direction. Identifying them, understanding them, and then start changing your behaviors around it, right? But the body piece is another huge thing, right? You beat the fuck out of our bodies when we're eating, oxys and drinking and doing blow and all this other stuff, right? You don't eat for a couple of days. You're like, And guys that get successful in this stuff, I'm telling you, it's like, you got to do something physical. You got to start taking care of your body, vitamin regimen, eating better, all those things. And then the soul side of it is you got to find something that's spiritual to you, right? It just has to be something guys can go to church, and guys can, go to AA meetings. They can go to recovery Dharma. They can go all of these places and find something other than themselves.
Yeah.
And that's big. That's big time. That's the balance that you have to live in your life.
Yeah.
So
Can you talk a little bit about your relationship with your daughter when in active addiction and then what it's like now?
Yeah. An active addiction, my daughter's 18 now. And, as I told you about my story, it was like, okay, dad go to the hospital for a little while and then he'd be sober for 2 or 3 years and then he'd fuck something up again. And then, and I think that really became, prevalent when I got divorced. Right. And I couldn't even see it. I was like, whatever. Like, I didn't know that I was going to miss the opportunity to be her dad. Now, I'm her father, but I missed all that opportunity, right? I didn't get to wake up and see her every day, go to school and deal with all that stuff. I got to see her play lacrosse and all the other stuff and plays and stuff like that. But as me as a dad and as you as a dad, you want to be there for your kids, And that's really hard for me, really hard today, right?
Mhm.
Now, to fast forward, my daughter, she's 18, she's in college now, right? We've got a great relationship. And I had to make my amends to her, and making an amends to your daughter it was hard, it was really hard where you're just, your gut wrenching, tearing up because you're the dad. You're supposed to be the one, protecting her. And I lost a lot of that stuff so I couldn't even protect myself, right?
Yeah.
So it was hard. That was a hard time. But today it's good. I'll give you an example of this. And I didn't realize it at the time. When I wrote this book and I launched it, 12 months ago. And it's gotten good reviews and all this stuff. I'm like, I'm doing signings at Barnes and Nobles and all this pretty cool stuff, right? And I was like, oh, cool. People kind of like this book. I was like, this is great, And I asked my daughter to come down to a signing, and she's like, "No, Dad, I'm not ready for that." And I I was like trying to show her all those good things. She's like, "Dad, I lived that." You know what I mean? And I was like, I get it. She hasn't read the book. She's not going to read the book until she's much older. She doesn't need her. She's 18 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the shit that I talk about, I don't really want my daughter to read it right now.
Mm-hmm.
She's older and mature, fine.
Yeah.
But, that kind of stings, right? But it was like,
Yeah, but we
it's
have
her
to
recovery too, right?
exactly. I was just going to say that we have to respect their healing process as well.
Yeah, yeah.
We make the amends, and in some cases, it's not on our timeline.
Right. Yeah.
And that's something we have to respect. But you had the awareness to back off it, which is amazing, and understand and accept it. Acceptance.
Accept it. Yeah. I just accept it and be like, okay.
There are a lot of people that get sober, get clean, and they still live with this guilt and shame of, let's say, being an absent parent, being an absent friend, alienating their entire family. What do you do today to help you cope with the shame and guilt of not being that dad that you wanted to be during those years you were in active addiction?
How do I cope with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's so much shame that goes along with that. But and again, I keep saying this, like when I really started to get deep into writing, this book about it, if we can move ourselves to shame, to guilt, it's a good thing, right? Because shame is one of the worst feelings that you can ever have in your life, right? It's where I think the devil sits, and there's no good that comes from that shame. So if I could move myself just a little bit to feeling guilty, I know that I have forgiveness in feeling guilty, So I really avoid that whole world of like shame. And I understand that, but there's a lot of forgiveness too. You have to realize that I had to, I'll like step back a little bit. In my active addiction, a, a lot of that wasn't me. It was, but it wasn't. Like I had chemicals in me. I was out of my mind. I was doing something I would never do today, being, living in sobriety, you know? So you gotta give yourself a little bit of break there.
Mm-hmm.
You also have to forgive yourself. Let that like soak in. It took me a long fucking time forgive myself on some of those things. And still today, those things will pop up. I wish I would have done this and that. You know what I mean? You know what I wish? I wish I wouldn't have had to put my family and my friends through the shit that I put them through.
Yeah.
And that's the difference of thinking of me. I'm thinking of others.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. Like if I could change that, that's moving from not being selfish.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where can people find your book?
Oh, my book?
Lost in London.
Lost in London. Oh, you got the camera over here?
Yeah.
Lost in London. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it at Barnes & Noble. You can, I have a partnership with a company. Well, that's one of my main publishers. It's called Book Baby.
Mm-hmm.
Book Baby is, they work with me and we donate to recovery organizations. So you don't make a ton of money on books. It's not where you're like, oh, I'm going to sell 1 million books. It's this, but it's what I'm proud of. It's got, people really like it and people give me a lot of great reviews for it. So, and I think it resonates with a lot of individuals, and it doesn't have to be specifically on addictions. My book is really about my vulnerability, being honest in my life. And I use recovery as that platform. But you can substitute a lot of those things that we all have to struggle with in our lives. And it's just a story. I don't regurgitate, oh, this is what you need to do. And it was things that I had to do. And hopefully that resonates with people, because the thing about it is when I was writing this book, I thought I was going to figure out all my shit. And technically I actually did a lot of it. But I realized that this book was not about me; it was about us, and that's why I started to push things to donating. So, I've donated to the Heron Foundation. The Karen Foundation has been great with me. We just did an Angels in Addiction, an organization up in the Philadelphia area, and I will continue to do that. I will continue to donate because, like I said earlier, I got to be in it.
Yeah.
I got to be in it, right? So, yeah.
Are you on social media?
Yeah.
Where can people find you if they want to?
You could go to my website. It's probably the easiest way, but you can go to Coach Shooty, Coach Shooty on my Instagram. TikTok is the same, Coach Shooty, SHOOTY. You can go into my website, which is just-today.org. And you can reach out to me that way. And the Facebook, I'm continuing to expand my social media content. So especially after writing a book, you're like, you got to get on social media.
You have to have a presence.
Yeah. So it's all good. I got some good stuff on social media. Put out a video a couple times a week now, and some good things I think that can help people going through some similar shit that I went through.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for coming out today,
Yeah,
coming on
good.
the show, getting vulnerable with us, sharing your story, and your willingness to just help the next sick or suffering alcoholic or addict.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Yeah, really, really appreciate being here. It was finally great to meet you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot.